Hello and welcome. I'm Keira Sorrells, the Executive Director of NICU Parent Network. This is our Friday feature where we get a chance to shine the spotlight on one of our incredible members. And I am so excited to be here today with Kelli Kelley, the CEO of Hand to Hold. Kelli has actually been one of the founding members of NICU Parent Network, has helped us build and grow and establish this network for parent-led support organizations and small businesses. And Kelli is the mother of two preterm babies. Kelli, thank you so much for spending just a few minutes with us to talk a little bit about your journey as a NICU parent leader.
I'm thrilled to be here. And like we were saying before we went live, we get to see each other, which is, that doesn't happen often enough. And I know what we crave out of being part of NPN is other people who are doing the hard work we're doing and understand how hard it is and support us. So I'm thrilled to get to see you and be part of this and talk to everybody out there.
I know, I love it. So let's just start off and tell me, because you and I met back in 2010 for the very first time, which were, when you were just kind of getting Hand to Hold off the ground.
Yeah, I like to say it was an idea and a business card, like
right.
just trying to make this work. Yeah, we met at the very beginning. I remember bringing my newsletter to that first summit we had, and what it was then compared to now.
Yeah. Well, it's really been amazing to see how Hand to Hold has just grown and flourished over the years. So, but let's go back to the beginning. How was it that you just, where did that idea come from? How did you get, just really propelled to step out and do something for other families?
Well, if you know me, I'm a Christian woman, and it's just like embedded in me. And so my faith is very important and drives me. But I will say I ran from this calling. I tried to find everybody else. I read Purpose Driven Life 3, 4, 5 times, and just kept saying, thinking I was trying to motivate someone else to do this work. I just knew it was needed. I knew it was a gap. It started because we were an ambassador family for March and Imes, and Jackson was 5 at the time. And I honestly went to that first meeting thinking it was a support group. Like, I'm finally gonna meet other people and get some support, and this will happen. And it wasn't. And it was more of a, we're here to help plan Prematurity Awareness Day. And we need these events planned and things like that. And, that was my background, a marketing PR background. And I was like, absolutely, I'm all in. And, got real, I still remember though, when they went around the room and I introduced myself and they were like, oh, if you want to stay and have coffee afterwards, we can do that. But we're here to, here's the agenda. And I remember just being like, oh, okay, sure. And, that transformation happened. And then we just kind of dove into all of our advocacy work, and Jackson was chosen as the ambassador family. And then I started speaking, and then, we were raising a lot of money at the time. And they asked if I would lead a class for state of Texas to teach other groups how to fundraise like we were. And then it ended up being a national thing. And they were going from doing some rebranding and going from, what was it? Walk America, remember? And they brought all these volunteers from all over the country together and for us to help. But when we met, we were all saying the same things. Like, our kids got the best medical care and they're doing great, and they're 5 and they're 7 and but we were all struggling. Every single one of us, marriages, divorces, and just parenting and mental health. And we were all just trying to describe what it was. But it was very nebulous. At the time, I really hadn't done a lot of therapy to even dig into it. And so it was really meeting those families and going, there's a gap. What is this gap? Fix this gap. And then I did very unscientific research studies, calling everybody I knew and asking them all the same list of questions. Like, if you had support, what would it look like? And it
Yeah.
just kinda started from there. It was very organic,
Mhm.
and,
Mm.
to think where I am today versus where we were, but, like, honestly, like, I took that idea and I shopped it around. I was, like, trying to take it to nonprofit. Took it to March of Dimes, honestly, and that was before they had, the family support program they have now, but locally, we just
Right.
it wasn't a fit, and so, it was really just trying to find others that believed in it. I
Mhm.
still remember, like, there was one person in particular that I was just like, I really thought it should be her. And I kept trying to
Mhm.
remember her. She was like, "Why not you? Why don't you?" And I was like, "I don't
Right.
run a nonprofit. I don't know how to do that." You know? And so
Yeah.
she really, challenged me that I could do it.
Uh-huh.
And a woman that's a mentor and I think of as a grandmother, same thing. And then my parents, and of course,
Yeah.
I think everybody but my husband was excited for it. And I get why. And
Sure.
because it takes a lot. It just takes a lot of everything you've got to make it work.
Yeah,
But
it
I'm
is.
loving it.
So
Go
if
ahead.
I'm hearing you, it's like recognizing what it was that you lacked as a parent going through this experience, and then realizing that you weren't alone was
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, okay, I'm not crazy. It's not just me. There are other people out there, and we need to do something about it."
Yeah, and you and I have talked about it before. Like, I still remember the first time
Mhm.
we met and we sat on that little bench outside the hotel, and
Yep.
I just felt like I had met my twin. Like, I was, like, so excited to finally, like,
Yeah.
connect with, and then, I remember the other people that were there, meeting Deb and Nick and, like, all the like, I was just like, "There are other people out there trying to do what I'm doing," and I didn't even
Yeah,
know it. Um,
right.
so I'm so thankful that we did connect way back then because this has been, a great support system as we're all very different in how we're approaching it.
Mhm.
But
Right.
it's
Yep.
good that we know, just as what we're trying to do for the families, that they're not alone. I think the same thing for
Mhm.
NPN and us, feel like we're not alone and the challenges are real
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how we
Absolutely. I think, that's one of the things that we always say that I think is so beautiful about this NICU parent leader space is that we've all been, significantly impacted by the experience. I mean, many of us have completely changed careers
Mhm.
because of it. Some of us have started a second career at the same time that we're still doing our original career because of it. And but we are all going at it in a different way, whether it's peer support, whether it's research, whether it's writing a book or, going to Capitol Hill or, being in the weeds, finding, um, you know, like emergency necessities that families need before they go home. I mean, there's just so much need out there.
Mhm.
And it really does take every single one of us because we're still not meeting all the needs out there
Yeah.
of all the families. So, I think I just, I'm so thankful to have everybody a part of this network. And it's also really exciting to see how people are transformed, like when they first are getting started to where they are now. I mean, you're what, 13, 14 years down the road, 15 maybe?
Yeah, everyone asks, and I don't know how I need to, like, just have it on a put it in my phone or something so I can refer to it because it's it was such a nebulous start of, like,
Mhm.
we started I finally found someone who got it and believed in it and said, "Come on in," and I ran it
Yeah.
as a program under their nonprofit, and that was
Mhm.
for a year, and then,
Yeah,
you know, I learned a lot. It wasn't the best fit. I should have asked a lot more
sure.
questions. I should have I was so anxious to get going, that,
Right.
finding the right fit, but I still learned a lot, and they were great people and all good,
Mhm.
but,
Sure.
I knew it wasn't sustainable there, and so
Mhm.
but then to pull it out and to start over. And so I went
Mhm.
under here in Austin, there's something called the Austin Community Foundation, and they allow you to function
Mhm.
under their
Mhm.
501 as you're getting yours. And so I did that for
Mhm.
a year. So I had a year as
Mm.
a program, a year under Austin Community Foundation, and then finally starting Hand to Hold as it is today.
Yeah.
And then I think about all those pre years before that. Like,
Right.
it's not handhold, but it was like all of the research and the calls and the meetings, and I had
Mhm.
littles, and I still remember I was like, "If you
Yeah.
can do 3 calls a day, 3 calls a day," like, just, trying to really simplify it, like, between
Yeah.
drop off and pick up, you got this much time, what is your goal
Mhm.
for the week? Um,
Yeah.
so that's kinda how it started, so it just feels like it's forever, forever, but in many
Yeah.
different iterations, if you will.
Right. So, how do you think you've been changed just personally as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, as a leader from those early days to where you kind of see yourself right now?
Oh, wow. I really tried to put an answer together for this. Like, I don't wanna, like, overthink it and come in with a scripted, but
Right.
I was, like, trying to really think this through. It's a really hard question. It's a big question.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
I feel like part of it is hand to hold and the work I've done that is kind of the healing and,
Mhm.
really believing that we have something to offer. I think that's something that you and
Right.
I and Deb and
Mhm.
many other
Mhm.
people within this organization have fought so hard to be at the table because we weren't.
Right.
And saying
Right.
this is legitimate and we have something to say and like we're
Mhm.
representing a lot of families and
Mhm.
kinda earning that seat at the table. So I feel
Yeah.
very good about I own that seat now. Um,
Mhm.
but I joked around with you earlier and saying, like, I feel like I've been gutted and put back together, right? It's like
Mm.
it was a very big piece of my healing of, like,
Mhm.
but not really even knowing it. It's like there's this hole,
Right.
and I gotta feel it, like, fill it in, and
Mhm.
I'm doing that because by, like, trying to fix this problem instead of fixing me, and
Mm.
I kinda
Mm.
back up during the process.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. I am trying to
Yeah.
provide all the support to all these families, and I haven't done the hard work. And so,
Mhm.
having and then trying to do that hard work while doing hand to hold was very, very, very hard. Um,
Mhm.
and I try to caution people when they're excited and going forth and they're gonna start their nonprofit and they've got I always, like, really try to pull the reins, but you also don't want to take that enthusiasm and excitement and that need
Right.
away. But I believe in counseling. I believe in
Mhm.
being like part of me is like, I don't know if Mike could have ever gotten on board if we would have really done it, right? Like, a part of
Mm.
me go and do it even though he was, like, not really on board, but that was really hard on our
Mhm.
marriage, right?
Mm.
Starting
Sure.
starting it so early when my kids were still little was really hard on my parenting and on them. Am I proud of what I've
Mm.
created and that they've seen the journey and they've been part of it? Absolutely. But I also
Mhm.
look and see the toll it took on me
Mm.
and my parenting and on my marriage, and then on my
Mm.
mental health, that I
Mm.
didn't go do the hard work and work through the things I need to.
Mhm.
So when you say truth, I feel like I'm, like, almost, like, on a whole other side of it now, um,
Right.
and Casey Matthews helped me a lot with this. I love Casey. Casey's been a
Yeah.
member of NPN, and she, does
Mhm.
coaching, and so I worked with her for a year, and she helped me in thinking about hand to hold as a baby. It really is my 3rd
Mm.
child. I wanted
Mm.
3 kids. After the 2 NICU experiences, we decided not to have more kids, and
Mhm.
so she encouraged me to name hand to hold, like, what name would you give? And so I named her Hope.
Mm.
That always makes me choke up.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
thinking of her as this child, and she was this baby
Mm.
and this infant and what it took, and then what it takes as a toddler, and then what it takes as a teenager,
Mm.
and kind of this letting go process too. Um,
Mm.
you know, seeing her grow up and what does she need now as
Mhm.
a parent versus what she used to need. So anyway,
Mhm.
that's been a transformative experience and a healing
Yeah.
way, and kind of getting to a place where I'm kind of getting ready. I keep telling you this of let the others come and take the reins and have their new ideas and run.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be me. And I think that feels so good where I'm not
Yeah.
like, it has to be me. It has to be me. I have to do it. And this burden, this weight. And I always said it
Mhm.
like, we're walking around with a backpack full of bowling balls trying to climb a mountain, you know, and,
Mm,
it
right.
doesn't feel like that anymore, and we
Yeah.
put in a lot of hard work, and I think it's because
Mhm.
so many people are coming along behind us now
Yeah.
and supporting that. I think you've got all the NICU professionals believing in it now,
Mhm. Mhm.
research is showing it now,
Right.
and so, this big drum that we've been banging and banging and banging, and I'm like, all I think as awful as COVID was, I think a lot of people woke up to mental health and,
Absolutely.
like,
Mhm.
and then maternal mental health specifically, and,
Mhm.
all the disparities,
Yeah.
and so, that was transformative too, just going through COVID,
Mhm.
keeping a nonprofit running, um,
Mhm.
and then looking at, you know, it finally has brought light to what we're trying to do. So,
Right.
finding
Absolutely.
good in that terrible time.
Yeah. Well, I really love what you said that you were trying to fix the problem instead of fixing yourself first. And I mean, I can certainly, attest to doing the exact same thing. And it does get very hard when you do start working on yourself while also trying to run the organization that you've started to build. And I think one of the things that we don't realize, or, that I think that we're also as organization leaders trying to bring to light is that we as NICU parent leaders are trauma survivors. If we're doing any kind of peer support, I mean, most of these organizations are staffed by volunteers or paid staff who are also
Mhm.
bereaved and NICU families, trauma survivors. And now
Yes.
we're going back into the space every single day to help others who are in the midst of the trauma and maybe walking into that exact same NICU where you had your own trauma.
Yep.
And that is a really unique trifecta, I think, for what we're doing as leaders. And it can't be glossed over. I think that just kind of goes to the significance and importance of this community of being able to support each other um, as leaders. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. I think because I'm going through Mary Coughlin's trauma informed professional
Mhm.
course right now. And so it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just really, it's right here at the top of my head all the time, how significant that is as leaders.
Yeah, and it's really, a big challenge for us because we do have paid staff, who are
Mhm,
certified, who have a lot of training, and a lot of
mhm,
support, but we're finding it's not enough. Because
mm,
they're
mhm,
at the bedside as people are losing their babies,
right.
and surgeries and challenges and all these things that
Mhm,
they're walking through on a daily basis. And
right.
so we are still trying to figure it out, to figure
Mm,
out what do they need in order to do what they do
mhm,
every day, and
right.
supporting them in that. And, we've had lots of conversations. Everybody does it differently, and I totally respect
Mhm,
how everyone does it. But we've
mhm,
had debates in this group before about, how far away from the trauma should you be and before you're doing it, and I'm just gonna stand firm. Like, I feel like, you need to have some time.
mhm,
You've got to have done some hard work, and you got to be ready.
mhm.
And we find that our support specialists are more, um, able
Yeah,
to handle the stresses of the job when
yeah,
they've had some time in between the NICU
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So,
It's so important. I think, in a lot of ways, and we read about this a lot with peer support, whether that's addiction recovery, whether it's cancer treatment and survivor, or veterans, that, helping others can help you heal as well. But I always kind of push back on that a little bit because you still have to be at a point in your own healing where it's not only about you.
yeah.
And I think that's what I did very early on. Was I was trying to heal from the loss of my daughter by jumping in and helping other people, but like you said, like I hadn't done the hard work on myself yet. And I mean, I just distinctly remember, like, my wake up call was supporting a mom who lost a micro preemie in the NICU, going to that baby's funeral, and then I could barely get out of bed for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
because it re-traumatized me, and it made me go, "Okay, I don't wanna ever be at the bedside again. That's not my spot. I need to step back. I need to do some work." And we've got a great comment from Kimberly Reyes. I hope I'm saying your name right. She says, "What a great point to make about so many of us who do this work. It is so often a situation where we are faced with navigating our own trauma as we help others."
Mhm.
And, I think it's just a really unique, situation that we're in, and I also just wanna I love the point that you made that you do have, very comprehensive training. You have staff who are mental health professionals. You have, staff who are certified peer specialists. So you have these certifications and this training, but still, we're still human.
Yeah.
There's nothing that makes us bulletproof from being surrounded by it or talking about it every single day, hearing about it, reading about it. I mean, we're literally just enmeshed
And,
in
I
in
kind of
it.
threw my husband under the bus saying he didn't want to do this, and I didn't understand for the longest time. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Because I believe, like, too much, to people who much is given, much is expected of them too, right? And giving back.
Mm, mhm,
So I was like, "Why would we not?" But it was well, when he finally got around to doing his therapy, it really
mhm,
was because he didn't wanna be around it. He didn't wanna hear
mm,
the story.
mhm,
We were
mm,
fine. Let's move
mm,
on. Let's put that over here.
right,
Um,
right.
but, I think now on a very different side, we just had our NICU graduation, on Sunday. It
Mhm,
was so incredibly powerful. We had an actual
right.
stage where the kids walked the stage. They wore their graduation caps. It was kids
I
of all
love that.
ages. We had babies to, our oldest walker, I think, was 40 something years old. So it was so
I
cool.
love that.
But Mike was like, "God, I wish we could have had something like this." And I was like, "Look what we're
Yeah,
giving to people. Like, we're giving them this
right.
opportunity because it really is that alone is a healing moment where you're like,
Mm,
putting a
yeah.
cap on it and kind of saying, "Look what we've
Mhm.
become," like celebrating this milestone. And um,
Yes,
so anyway, it
definitely.
was it was really powerful to see that and for him to see like all this, like, because another thing that happens now is as a leader, like, I'm not in the hospital all the time.
Right,
I don't
right.
read all those stories because I can't.
Mm,
And,
mhm,
but staying really deeply connected to the mission and to what the
mhm,
why, we're doing what we're
mhm.
doing, and that makes all the other stuff bearable.
Yeah,
That like, when you I think starting a nonprofit is like having a baby. It's like you think about the
mm,
baby, but you don't
right.
think about, like, now I gotta potty train, I gotta teach him to drive, and so
Right.
it's it's a business,
For sure.
and being an entrepreneur and growing a small business is tough,
Mhm.
and
It
especially
is.
in this market that we've been in and going through COVID,
Oh, for
it's like,
sure.
you know, you're
Yeah.
just dodging boulders constantly. But then when you see the impact and the families say what
Mhm.
it's meant to them, and
Yeah.
you're seeing people access free support. Like that was our big thing. It's like I just want to remove
Mhm.
barriers so everybody has access to support. Because I put off
Yeah.
support because I didn't feel like we could financially justify it. We had all these
Mm.
appointments and bills and therapies, and I was just running ragged getting Jackson to all of his appointments, much less me going
Right.
to therapy. And so
Sure.
that's why that really got postponed. And then when I
Mhm.
finally did go and seek the support, and they were like, almost made me feel bad, like we're not doing
Yeah.
that, right? And so then I was like, okay, and so just put it off further and put it off further. And then when I finally did go, and I've shared before, like, I've done a lot of different therapy and I worked with 3 different therapists. And I think that's a lot of it. Like Gigi and I talked the other day of like the importance of finding the right therapist. And
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
I finally did the EMDR. And I was really
Mhm.
scared of it. And that's why I kept like putting it off. And then I did it.
Mhm.
And it was so hard and so deep and so traumatic. And I was like, not doing that
Mm.
again. Not doing that again.
Mm.
And then she kept
Yeah.
asking and asking, and I was like, "I cannot do that because I can't go back to work." Just like you said, I can't spend 2 weeks
Mhm.
in bed. I was like,
Right.
"I can't do that and run my company." And
Mm.
then I found
Mhm.
out, well, I can't run my company if I don't. Like,
Mm.
have to
Yeah.
get through that. And so,
Yeah.
finally allowing myself to just like go there and deal with it,
Mm.
dig it all up and
Yeah.
work through it. And
Right.
it's a process and it's
Yeah.
hard. And
Yep.
you need to give yourself time, space, and surround
Yes.
yourself with people who can support you in going
Yes.
through it. And if those
Yes.
that don't understand, then you know
Yep.
you gotta have people who really understand and value the importance of your mental health.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about that real quick, about hand to hold specifically. So you always that was kind of always central to what you wanted to do was to have accessible support for families. So how are all the many, many, many ways that you've developed over the years
It
to
started
support
very
families?
simple, very organic. It was like, I the support groups in our hospital were not what I were not helpful to me. I appreciated that they
Mhm.
had them, but they were not helpful. And so it just started out very organically that I went to the hospital where we were and I gave some simple ideas of things that I thought could be improved. And they really were receptive. And it started
Mhm.
there. And then it was like the peer-to-peer support and trying to match people
Mhm.
with trained volunteers. And then, how
Mhm.
do you train them? What does the training modules look like? What
Right.
does it mean to be? And so and there's been a lot of different iterations of that, but that's still, we still match people all over the country
Mhm.
and globally. So
Mhm.
they are matched with a trained peer mentor by phone, email, text, and we do that by their experience. So,
Mhm.
twin mom who's lost a twin, 24 weeks, we're really looking for
Right.
someone who's alike. And then in the hospitals where we partner, we actually have family support specialists. So those are certified through the state. They are peer mental health specialists. We have our own internal training. We developed our own curriculum for support groups that we run in the hospitals, and now we're doing those virtually as well. So we have a lot of different
Mhm.
support groups that people can join virtually through the week.
Mhm.
We have a podcast. We have a podcast for NICU parents, and we also have one for professionals, and they can get continuing education. There, the real focus is always mental health, but there are many different aspects of
Mhm.
that. We come about it from a lot of different ways. We launched an app
Mhm.
last year, and that you can just go through the app store and put in hand to hold, and it looks and operates a lot like Facebook. But we're really wanting to get our families off of Facebook. What we're finding too
Mhm.
is like, how do we meet the needs of Gen Z? Gen Z
Mm.
aren't on Facebook, and so
Right.
what do they want and how do they want to get support? And they
Right.
don't necessarily want to talk to
Mm.
anybody. And so we're really like investigating and thinking
Mhm.
about how's the best way to support those younger parents, because I
Yeah.
think we're up to like 60% of the babies in the NICU are Gen Z moms. So
Oh,
um,
wow.
thinking
Mhm.
about how to support them and what do they need. And so our app allows
Right.
them to find the podcast, find the support groups, connect
Mhm.
with a support specialist, be part of different discussion groups, and find like
Mhm.
parents. So the app, the podcast, the support groups, the hospital partnerships. What am I leaving out? We sell our milestone.
Counseling?
We have counseling. It's
Yeah.
Texas and Florida.
Mhm.
We really want to grow that, but that's our most expensive program, and trying to get that
Mhm.
funded is hard. So a lot of grants and donor development to support counseling.
Mhm.
But I think it's one of the most important pieces. Like the people who
Mm.
us the
Mhm.
most are in counseling, and but
Right.
keeping that free, because like I said, like even a sliding scale for me meant that
Yeah.
am I covered? What's the cover? How much is
Right.
never mind.
Right.
And also
Yeah.
trying to find one, someone who had any experience in NICU, and two,
Right.
had any availability. State of Texas is like
Mm.
48th in mental health. So we're trying to
Mm.
take that barrier away for our NICU families. And we also
Mhm.
have Florida. It's a high need area, and we happen to have a staff member there, and that's why Florida. But
Yeah.
looking at other states and how to grow that as well.
Mhm. That is so wonderful. I know you've also got, like, the milestone beads,
Yeah,
right?
we have our milestone bead program, and we
Yeah.
have our education materials. So about
Mhm.
90 hospitals across the country refer to us. So they're buying
Mhm.
our education, they're using our bead program, and they're sending their families to our support groups or connecting
Mhm.
them to our app and podcasts and other things. So,
Mhm.
building the hospital partnerships and so parents can get directly to us. Like they're not out there like you
Right.
and I were like, where do
Right.
I go? How do I find support?
Right.
And so
Exactly.
trying to make it as easy and direct for the families as possible.
Yeah. That is fantastic. So, App Store, families just search Hand to Hold. Of course, all the social channels, your website, handtohold.org, as just a wealth of information. Um, is there anything, any kind of, as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to families? Anything that you wish you had known, perhaps?
Hmm. I don't know. I think just, acknowledging how hard it is.
Hmm.
And it's not just the NICU.
Mm.
For me, I found that, my trauma started before I actually made it into the NICU. It was
Mm.
preterm birth. It was, all the things that happened prior to having the baby
Mhm.
and entering the NICU. And so really backing that
Right.
out was really important and part of my healing. Um, just not dismissing the NICU if you were there a couple of days or
Mhm.
months. And even the challenges that go after the NICU, you know?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that if we try to it's I don't know. It's hard to say it's linear. It just there's
Yeah.
a lot of different pieces of it, and different things
Mhm.
come up at different times.
Yeah.
It you're just for me and for my kids, I've found that, you kinda
Mhm.
need a checkup every once in a while. It's like,
Right.
I'm thinking I need some therapy, I need to connect someone, I need to share these, I need a break.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
for my kids of, like, things still come up that,
Mm.
like, "Is
Mhm.
that prematurity? Is that this? Is that" like, um,
Right.
and that can be very triggering too of, like, "Can't we just go
Mm.
already? Can't we just be
Right.
this?"
Right. Yep.
Is it always
Right.
gonna be this way? Um, but I just, I think just what we tell parents every day, "You're not alone. You're just not alone."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're here to support you from hand to hold, but also NPN. And I think if for the leaders that are in NPN and doing it, like just it is hard. It's hard work,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah.
to set realistic goals, give yourself
Yeah.
breaks, find really
Yeah.
good mentors. Um,
Yeah.
don't let your marriage suffer and your parenting and your mental health and your relationships, all of those things, because it will all come. It doesn't all have to come tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I think that is
Right.
something I'm getting a little bit better at in my older age now, of
Mhm.
understanding that it doesn't all have to happen tomorrow. And
Right.
so being realistic about what can I even handle? And
Sure.
and then I think, as you're growing, it is, bringing in the staff to support you.
Mhm.
What are you spending a lot of time on that's really not your, you know, your talent? And how
Right.
to grow like that so that you do have a support system and you're not always
Yep.
trying to do everything for everyone. It's just impossible.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and for sharing so openly about your journey as a parent, as a leader, and just thank you for all that you do for families, and thank you for being one of my people for the last 13 years.
Mm.
um,
And we laugh because
just
I think we've only met in person like 5 times, like
5 times maybe. Right.
Like, but you are my people and one of my closest and dearest friends, and I respect so, so much, and thank you for what you've
Oh,
done with NPN
likewise.
and continuing to, beat that drum for NPN and bring us all together because, without NPN, I wouldn't even know who else is out there and what they're doing,
Yeah.
I just learned so much from the other organizations and the other leaders and
Mhm.
you know, I feel rejuvenated every time, and I can't wait for the summit because we need it, and it's
Yeah.
been too long
Yes,
since we've been
it
together.
has been. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
and we will talk again soon. And
All right.
everybody just check out handtohold.org and check out all the great resources they have for you as families and as professionals.